Making the most of life and investment in Portugal. Portugal Pathways simplifies every step, from golden visa and relocation to citizenship and cross-border tax planning. Portugal Pathways are proud sponsors of the Portugal Diaries podcast. Welcome to the Portugal Diaries podcast. I'm Jen.
And I'm Claire.
On today's episode, we have Dr. Giselle Goodwin, an entrepreneur turned author whose career has been anything but boring. She's built a recruitment business, launched an online pharmacy that specialises in the kind of medicine we don't talk about, and also completed a PhD exploring the links between women, work and well-being. Her last book delves into the science of what truly makes women happy and how it differs from men. We're so excited to have you on. Thank you, Giselle.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
No, actually, we've just been spending a lot of time just talking before the show, so we're trying to say, keep it to the show.
I know. But I think we want to just delve straight in and talk about your links with Portugal and what brings you here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I moved to Portugal in 2016. So been here quite a while, and between here and the UK. So my accent's actually Canadian. So I grew up in Canada. We were saying before about the accent. I would love to sound newsreader, and I blatantly don't. So grew up in Canada. My husband's from Cheshire, so lived in the northwest of England for many, many years. And back in 2016, got the opportunity, work-wise, business-wise, to say, right, shall we give it a go? Yeah. And we'd holidayed here a lot. So I knew people here. We had friends here. I knew there was a possibility of living here because our friends, they had, they were at international school, their kids, and we kind of saw the lifestyle and thought, happy days. And then business-wise, there was at the time, still is, certain tax incentives to come as well. So it just seemed like the stars aligned. And our kids at the time were 6 and 8. And we thought, I think like many people do, we'll give it a go. You know, what's the worst? Let's go for a year, see how it goes.
I hear that a lot.
See what happens. Yeah, and that's what you do. You dip your toe in the water, and then, so we came for a year in 2016, stayed for 3.5 years. We were actually here during COVID. When COVID hit, we came back for a little bit as well. So we spent lockdown here, which was
nice.
And how was that?
Oh, lockdown here was just, and this is really awful because so many people had different experiences of lockdown. Yeah. I was one of those, like, lockdown was great. Yeah. So we felt like we had space and time, and I think life was very frenetic, very, very busy. And so stepping off that hamster wheel and just being here as a family was good for us. I appreciate, lots of people had very different experiences. But we then moved back to the UK for the kids and schooling. So when they became high school age, we said, right, okay, we're going to go back. We had some business interests in the UK as well we needed to go back for. So we're kind of now in betwixt and between. And my girls now, our girls are teenagers. And so I'm now at that like midlife point. So I'm Gen X. I'm 50 next year. Oh my God. And at that midlife point of thinking, right, nearly empty nest. I'm seeing that on the horizon, that swapping around of priorities and where we're going to be and what we're going to do. And the kids are going to be off doing their own thing. So I can see in the future us spending more time out here again. And we kept our house. Yeah. So we come here for school holidays and have done for the last number of years. Since we lived here, we kept the house that we bought. And we kind of spend time between the two.
And so when you say you see yourself spending more, would you move again, or would you kind of be more transient between the two?
It's tricky because of Brexit.
Oh, of course.
So these rules are like,
because when you did it last time, it was pre-Brexit, so you didn't have the Schengen visa scenario.
None of that.
Just a poll.
Yes, actually,
we can help with that.
Sponsor.
Say that. Do tell me. I will have links with your sponsor if that's a situation.
That's exactly what they do.
It's a minefield. It's the whole. There's a D2 visa and a D7 visa, and certain ones you have to spend 8 months of the year here and 4 there, and so it's a minefield, isn't it? And I haven't quite got to grips with it. What I really liked was the opportunity to go, if I'll be there for a few weeks and here for a few weeks, and I don't have to have a flipping spreadsheet that tells me what days I've been where.
Now, isn't it? But it's so tricky to go on those apps because they do a rolling. It's not like that you say, because I currently have this with my eldest is, she's just graduated from uni, so she's kind of flitting around the UK at the minute, seeing friends and partying. There's a lot of 21st, but then she's kind of like, right, I'm coming home at the weekend, and then I'll just be at home until she doesn't know whether she's going to go traveling or get a job in London. But I was like, yeah, brilliant. And then I suddenly thought, oh, hang on. She was home in June, and then she was home and I'm thinking, we haven't been tracking these days yet. She's nowhere near the end of it, but because it's a rolling scenario, you do have to be on it if you don't go down the visa route, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a whole thing to navigate and organize. So yes, I'm not entirely sure how it's going to pan out yet, but I love it here.
And do the girls miss it?
I love it here. So it's really interesting. So we went back when my eldest started year 7 in high school there. So that was a big transition. And she even talks now about the fact that she loved her best year of school entirely was year 5 when we were here. And we had left, she was at one of the international schools. And at the time, so I think you guys came post-COVID, is that right?
Yeah, I didn't come till 2023, yeah.
So back in 2016, there's not as many people here, not as many international students, and there was difficulty with teachers and things like that. So we had left the big international school and we put her in this almost... I kind of call it a crunchy school. Like it was really hippy dippy. It was the best year of her life.
Which school? Which
so
school
it was called. They're not going to thank me now for calling it a hippy dippy school. No, it wasn't AIS. It was in fact, maybe we remain it nameless. But it was
AIS is good school, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
It was lovely, and they had it was a teacher who was a great guy from. He was a teacher in Surrey. He'd set up almost this tutor group here. And his initial thing that he had been tutoring kids who came here to do a lot of sports. And he would do the academic stuff and these kids would be off playing golf and tennis and and that was their main thing. And then he expanded it. So we went from 8 students like tutor group to 40 students to he ended up with a school of 120 kids in 2 villas. And these 2 villas were around the corner from our house. Right?
Perfect.
So the bedrooms were classrooms. They did meditation in the morning. They did they go off to islands and pick litter and things. And they would, honestly, it was the nicest thing.
So it's kind of like a lifestyle school.
Oh my God. I mean, they did do math and English and stuff, but she just had this living my best life. And she still talks about it now. So she's now 17 and talks about that.
And
was just...
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how's the transition back to being in a conventional classroam and sat at a desk all day?
That's my whole point. Yeah. Yes, she went back in year 7 was like, what's this nonsense?
How soon did she start rolling her skirt?
Yes. So it just comes up here. I think that starts, the month before you hit year 7, doesn't it?
No.
Yeah.
Rolling your skirt up. So, she had to get used to it. It was a tough school that we sent her back to, and so it was a big transition that she wasn't keen on. And then, of course, she's now settled there. And, kids they're pretty amenable and they kind of...
resilient.
They are.
Yeah.
I guess we're all resilient in different ways, aren't we? So you get used to stuff, don't you? But they did. They loved it here and they missed it for a good piece of time. Yeah.
What about you? How was the transition back to regular life?
A funny thing. So I have a friend who's just moved to Australia. And I was kind of saying to her about this. It's funny when you move because I think it takes at least 12 months to bed in.
Of course.
And I think for the first 12 months you move somewhere new, depending on who you are. Sometimes it's really exciting and it's like the new thing and whatever. And then you do the homesickness stuff. But by the time you've done a full 12 months, you kind of get in the zone. And then my time frame is, I think by the time you've done 3 years, you're so embedded, it's very, very difficult to go back then. So I think that's a funny thing. To be fair, I think I have the best of both worlds because we spend time here, we spend time in the UK, and it's just...
it's a good life.
Lovely between the two,
One thing I always like to ask people is why Portugal? So why, when you could be anywhere in the world, why do you choose this to be the place that you keep coming back to? Is there anything in particular that stands out for you?
It's the climate, but you're right. You could go anywhere for the climate, couldn't you? I do think we were saying before, there's a little microclimate here. 300 days of sunshine in the Algarve is a whole situation. And it's not that baking hot. You have that lovely Atlantic breeze. And it's just, so the climate is beautiful. The lifestyle is beautiful. I don't know about this area. I think it's just feels very easy to fit in. So we got to know the area because my husband plays a lot of golf. He'd come here on holiday. We'd met people here. And because I think we'd seen what that lifestyle was, it's just so,
and there's just
it's
a
just
feeling
attractive,
here,
isn't it?
There's a feeling, and we talk about this a lot between us, but we also talk with guests about it, and everybody seems to say there was just this feeling. As soon as I was here, I just got this feeling, and it's funny because I've just been back to the UK for Scarlett's graduation, and I came back on Wednesday night, and obviously we were back super late, so I didn't think anything Wednesday night. But yesterday morning, as soon as we got up and I made my coffee and I went and sat outside, and and I'm just looking, and I'm just again, I have that feeling, even though I've lived here nearly 2 years now, it hits me all over again, where I just think,
do you think it's a pace of life? Do you
I
think
don't
it's the
know
pace?
what it is, because I tend to be quite chaotic.
Yeah, your pace of life's not slow. Maybe for other people.
Definitely not. And that's USA. We're very similar. We are chaotic. My husband says I'm chaos, and actually my business partner says I'm chaos.
You're not chaos.
well.
You're just busy. You
I
fill
am
your
very
day
busy,
to the max.
going here, there, and everywhere. And I'm somebody. And I know actually our mutual friend Harriet, she's like this. If there's a 5-minute window, she'll think
She's going to book it.
I'm going to just, I can do that in there and then go there. And I think when other people don't operate like that, it's quite crazy for them to be around. But
I think it's an entrepreneurial thing. So that's absolutely, definitely how I live my life as well. That kind of, absolutely. In those windows of, little chunks of time, which is why I'm, really annoyingly, like invariably like 5 minutes late for stuff, because I think I'll just be able to do this
one more thing
before, and I'll squeeze it in. For me, the feeling was the pace. So what I found really interesting is in the UK, and this is my experience, was things feel frenetic. Traffic is busy, lifestyles are busy, stuff is booked weeks in advance. So, I have friends where they're like, right, can you do it 6 weeks on Saturday? That's a whole it's everything's in advance, everything's very scheduled. I found it like a breath of fresh air to come to an environment where it was, I don't know, what are you doing tomorrow? That kind of feeling.
Yeah, I love that.
That so was, I always remember when the kids were at school here and we'd only just moved, and in England, if you got birthday party invitations for kids, it would be months in advance, or certainly weeks in advance. It'd be scheduled at whatever, the village hall, Here, what happened was there's a little boy in her class having a birthday party. The mum said to the class on Friday, oh, come round to ours like 1:00 Sunday, and we'll just have some cake in the garden. So that's like a day and a half notice. Great, fine, lovely. We didn't happen to be doing anything on Sunday. Great, we'll go around there. 12:30, she texts us all going, oh, it's a bit overcast this afternoon. You have to be going some to have overcast in Portugal. So they were like, yeah, we'll do it a different day. So then it was off. And she said, it's fine. We'll do it Monday at the Four Seasons after school instead. Now, if you had done that in the UK, everybody's brains would have spontaneously combusted, because all the parents would be like, my Sunday is already busy and I'm seeing my parents and I've got such a thing, such buddies at netball, such buddies at football, blah, 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 blah. There'd be like a different...
Very true. I've never thought of that before.
Different
I have a
zone.
UK friend here who actually does make those plans. She always sends out, right, okay, let's try and get a lunch in. In early September. And I'm kind of like,
I don't know what I'm doing in September.
Because over here I'm less, like you say, scheduled. So it's all very, another friend messaged this morning saying, listen, come round to ours tomorrow afternoon for a low-key barbecue, so-and-so is coming in. And you're right. I love that, because it's so, and if you can't, you can't. But,
and if you can't, you can't. And that's the other thing. And it's so friendly, isn't it?
Nobody's offended.
Nobody's offended. So you end up on these WhatsApp groups and people are like, right, we're going down to the beach on whatever day. Rock up if you want.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's fine. Like, nobody's going, where were you?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really good.
Isn't it?
Listen, let's talk about, I know we've covered Portugal because we all love it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, we have this.
We have a book. We have a whole book.
Let's just talk about, because there's so much to talk about with your career and your entrepreneurial, everything, your PhD. But let's talk about this first. Because you wrote, this wasn't your first book though, was it? You had one before.
I wrote... So writing is probably how I process my stuff, right? So I like journaling. I've done writing conferences over the years and stuff. So that's probably how I process. So I did do a book 10 years ago, which was about allergies. My daughter had allergies.
Okay.
And again, that was my way of figuring out, how does this work?
Yeah.
And so this similarly is my whole take at, can women really have it all? is my whole take on work, women, well-being. As I say, I've gone and done this degree in the subject. So I met this lady at a writing conference. So I guess we can talk businesses as well, but essentially we sold our businesses in 2018, which freed me up some time to do other things, bit of writing. And this writing conference I'd gone to met this professor of women and work.
Wow.
And she was about 10 years older than me. And I just thought she was wonderful because she had some of the answers to those questions. You know, when you're in your 30s and you're so busy juggling work, family, trying to make it all work, trying to fit it all together, feeling chronically, and I know a lot of women now from the research feel like this, 85% of women feel chronically guilty, like we're not doing enough. And so her thing to me, as I was chatting to her at this writing thing was, Giselle, the thing is you are taking personal responsibility for something in this sense of, feeling like you're failing at everything all the time. You're taking personal responsibility for something that's a societal issue.
Yeah.
This is the water women are swimming in. These things are kind of bigger than just you as an individual. And I was just like, wow, okay, tell me more. And so she had these answers to all these questions that were going like tick, 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 tick in my brain. And so she invited me to interview about my businesses. And then that's how I ended up studying under her. So I did this PhD in women, work, and well-being. And that's where the book has then come from. The book's kind of a personal take. The PhD, like you'd be yawning going through it. The book hopefully has got lots of personal anecdotes, lots of kind of it's a deep dive on women and work, but also about the science of well-being, what makes us happy. All of it.
And I think we touched on in the intro around the difference between what makes women happy and what makes men happy. So what would you say are some of the key differences?
The key differences. Okay. So if we define happiness in the first instance, right? So when we look at happiness, in the literature, they look at this idea of happiness, the kind of academic term for it is well-being.
Yeah.
So they say well-being is a combination of pleasure and purpose. And you need both of those things. So we always presume happiness is like this, they call it hedonic and eudaimonic. So hedonic is this idea of like joy and purpose and like, I don't know, I'm out at a party, I'm eating ice cream on the beach. It's the pleasure stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, well-being is more broad and encompassing than that. So this concept of eudaimonia, and which goes back to Aristotle, so it's kind of a Greek philosophy. It goes back a long way. It's the idea of living a life that is true to your sense of self, your values, your virtues, your purpose, your meaning. So it's kind of more encompassing.
I love this.
So this is what I looked at. And so my specific niche was looking specifically at women entrepreneurs, but I looked generally at women and well-being and looked at what does give us pleasure from work. And so we know that work gives everybody well-being. And in terms of your question, which is what's the difference between well-being for women and men, actually, a lot of it's very similar. We all need pleasure and purpose in life, right? That goes for everybody. Yeah. And the science is really clear about the specific things. And I talk about them in depth in the book. So they're under this acronym, Great Dream. So there's 10 specific things that science tell us that are good for well-being. And you'll probably know quite a lot of them. They'll come through on your Instagram feed. You'll be like, yeah. So things like exercise and eating well and mindfulness, learning new things, setting goals, being connected with people. Connection is one of the longest studies on well-being. Was they studied a group of men from some from Harvard University and some from a poorer area of Boston. And it's the longest study on well-being over 70 years. And they found that actually one of the very keys to well-being is connection with others.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So the kind of the economic difference between the men from Harvard and those didn't make as much difference as did their connections with others. So connections with others is important. Doing kind things for others is important. And this is for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of how this pans out for women in our day and age, and as I say, this book is very much written from a Gen X perspective.
Yeah, because it's a tricky day and age, I have to say.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of up against it, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think we have a unique kind of experience of it. So growing up in the 80s, the messaging I was given around this idea of work and family was that, you can have it all. Girls can do anything. Right? Which is a weird loaded thing in the first place, right? Because we don't say to the boys, you can do anything the girls can do. But we say girls can do anything.
But you've also got to do everything.
Yeah. Thank you, right? So it's all about the doing everything, which brings me very nicely onto the differences between well-being with men and women. So there's 3 things I'll talk about. One is good relationships and how that pans out for men and women. The second is time, and the third is money. So if we take the first one, so good relationships, as I say, are the key to well-being. And what we find for men typically is that the key to their well-being is the relationship they often have with their partner. Okay. And these are very generic stats, but these are social trends, yeah? So men's well-being is key in terms of the relationship that they have in their marriage. Women's relationships and women's longevity is predicated on the relationships they develop with their female friends.
Do you know, and I've learned this recently, I guess it's maybe my algorithms coming up on me, on whatever, but is it Jane Fonda? She did an interview where she said the most important thing is female friendship. For a woman, it's your friendships. And that's really interesting you said that, because
Yeah. And they have that other stat, don't they, that the 2 happiest groups are married men and single women. They go on about that a lot as well. But they talk about, which brings you on to this idea of the domestic load and time. So what they find is that in terms of relationships, we are socialized as women to be the king keepers and the nurturers and the caretakers and the community builders. And that actually stands us in really good stead in terms of relationships. And what we're finding, there's absolutely a crisis of loneliness. There's a loneliness epidemic out there. Mm-hmm. We know that men are struggling in terms of suicide rates, 3 times more suicide rates than women. So these kind of social categories that we all get put into have impacts for both men and women. So in general, in terms of the relationship kind of box, women tend to do quite well. What happens in the other 2 boxes in terms of time and money, we have less of both overall. So we know things like when it comes to juggling career and family, this is very, very different than it was 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, 25% of women were in the workforce. We now have, this is the UK stat anyway, 76% of women in the workforce compared with 92% of men.
Okay.
So, lives has very much changed. Our kind of, it's very, very different. But yet we still expect women to be primary caregivers for children, but also in the community, so that relationship thing is kind of tends to be that emotional load, we call it, don't we?
Yeah.
So when the stats come out and they look at things like time use studies, what we know is that if you compare so they take paid work and unpaid work, and they call that total workload. And we know that when it comes to total workload, so as I say, combine paid and unpaid work, women's extra workload, depending on the study you look at, is typically between half an hour to an hour more a day. And this adds up to about 2.5 years of a woman's life. So the stats, and that's in the global north. In the global south, the stats add up to about 4 years of a woman's life. So we struggle with time. And of course, time is important for well-being, isn't it? Because time gives you choice.
Of course.
And autonomy is really highly correlated with well-being as well. So time is one thing, and then money is the other. So what we're finding is lots of times women are taking part-time jobs. And so we have a 15% pay gap, a 20% investment gap, a whopping 38% pension gap. So women are far more likely to live in poverty. So we're struggling with both these things, the time and the money. And that has impacts on well-being. So one of the things that I thought was really kind of, I guess, just hit me like a, wow, in terms of the research, was this idea of what they call the female happiness paradox. So what we know is that women are now less happy than they were 50 years ago, both absolutely and relative to men. So that is quite a stark stat.
A big
is it not?
I think is everyone thought, okay, let women go and join the workforce and contribute to their home and
fill your boots,
crack on and be an equal, and that will be life changing for them. But actually, I think we just end up doing far more.
Well, I think the difference is that was kind of like, yeah, women can work the same as guys and, you know, be in the workforce. But then what didn't change is what you're expected to do behind the scenes in the kind of, you know, in the home, cooking dinner, you know, looking after the kids and stuff. So in actual fact, as much as it's, okay, there's still the big pay gap and all the rest of it, the investment gap, but the landscape hasn't changed mostly within the household. So I just feel like
probably
women are, I'm careful what I'm saying here because I know that my husband listens.
But it's probably like the divorce rate is going up as well.
I was going to say you're not alone. Well, they say that, don't they? That's the other stat is 70% of divorces now, or it's often midlife women and often instigated by women. 70% of divorces instigated by women. So yes, there's dynamics and it's affecting everybody.
Don't worry, Simon, I'm not instigating
But you know,
No,
that's the difficulty with these conversations, isn't it? Because people are like, well, you're getting after me. And that's genuinely not the point, because actually these changes are impacting both men and women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why these conversations are so important, because we're all kind of at this loss of, what is my role?
Yeah.
Where am I?
And
it's not about beating
end up
people
with
over the
this
head.
kind of women on like a complete burnout. You know, when you talk about burnout, it's often women on burnout because, and especially, you know, midlife, which we reference a lot because sadly that's where I am. And, you know, so you've got that to deal with as well as kind of like, oh my goodness. And I love working, so I don't want to not work.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved here, I took the first year not working because I wanted to find my feet, make my friendships, you know, Jemima, get her settled in school and stuff. So I took that year off and then I started working, and I'm working a lot now. I've got lots of clients, obviously this amazing podcast, but it's suddenly kind of like, oh my goodness. And, you know, I want to do that. It's my choice, but it means that I am a bit crazy like you.
What you were saying earlier about purpose and goals and how we all need that. I think it's nice that, you know, we have that choice, and some people love it and embrace it and, you know, do a lot. And other women love that they get to stay at home and look after their babies.
Wrong with that either.
Like,
my whole thing is about supporting each other. Yes, number one, absolutely, that you get the choice. And number two is supporting each other.
Yeah.
And this is, again, from the research, is this idea of cost of comparison. And that's where women often end up. So when you talk about burnout, there's lots of stats on that. So we know that women with 2 children who work are they experience 40% more stress than those their contemporaries with no children. So 40% more stress, which shows up in cortisol markers in their bodies.
Does that go up when they're teenagers as well?
Yeah, very possibly. I've not got that stat. I've not got that data. But Claire, I might be on your page there. So it goes up with that, and we know they're 28% more likely to burn out than working fathers. So burnout is absolutely a thing.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you touched on teenagers, and I know you've got two lovely girls that were the inspiration for your book, weren't they?
They really were, yeah.
But is there anything from the book that you would say to them, or anything you would take from your lessons in doing your PhD that you think, girls, you need to, you know, here's my advice to you? Anything that you would share in terms of guidance?
Well, there was so much. That really was the purpose of the book, is basically saying, right, let me unpick this stuff, because it is nuanced. It is nuanced. What we don't want is everybody in silos. What we do want is for people to have choices, men and women. And so, there's loads of advice in the book. One that would probably stand out is this idea of a portfolio career. So that for me is a really big thing. I do think that life has different times and seasons. And that actually it's easier for me to look back now, as I say, I'll keep calling myself 50 because I've got another 12 months or so. But there is something about getting to midlife and going, you can see it in stages. And I wish somebody had said to me in my 30s when I was kind of trying to do it all and whatever, you have time. You have time. Now, and I also appreciate, because, you know, you've said about you having a year out and whatever, it's a privileged position to have a year out. Yeah. So there's lots and lots of people in financial situations that actually do not have that privilege. Yeah. And actually it takes 2 salaries to pay the mortgage, and this is where we're at. So it is wonderful when you have choice. But I would say to boys and girls, think about your life as a portfolio career. Think about it in seasons. Think about actually accumulating, because I say this really wholeheartedly as the mother of teenagers, you don't know what you want. when you're that age.
Yeah.
At 17, you don't know
wanna
what you're good
pigeonhole
at and
yourself.
who you are. And so life is, I think, collecting these skills and interests, and one of which, and important, if you do choose to be a parent, one of which can be parenting. So you can collect parenting as a skill amongst lots of different skills and think, there's times and places and seasons for this.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think that's great advice for everybody. So one of the other big things is that, often men on their deathbeds, particularly men who've worked very, very hard their whole life, their biggest regret is, I wish I'd spent more time with my family.
Yeah.
And you can see that as you get older, can't you?
Yeah.
But when you're in the thick of it and the nappies and it's hard to say. So my advice is, think about it like a portfolio career. I'm going to try this bit. I'm going to try it on for size and see if it suits. I've learned something from that. Then I'm going to layer over and learn something from this.
I always think of it as chapters, So like the baby era was a really grueling chapter. It's hard. You're in the trenches. But it's past in a flash, and you almost wish that you were back there.
But then it's the same with jobs, isn't it? You kind of, you do different jobs. You've done lots of different jobs. You've also had a different career. Sorry, I'm talking.
No, not at all. I was just going to say, even the come to Portugal, do it for a year. It's a chapter, and if it goes well, then you build on it, and if it doesn't, then we thank you for the positives, and take that and move on.
Pivot.
That's good.
Pivot.
Yeah,
we love a pivot.
I
love a pivot.
So you think for the girls, just don't get too stressed. You don't have to do that job for 50 years or whatever. You just
I wish somebody had said that to me. I wish somebody had said, well, two things I wish somebody had said to me. Number one, which is what this professor of work and well-being had said to me, professor of women and work, it's not you, it's society, which is this idea that you're taking on all this guilt for the fact that you were finding this a massive, because I really did. Struggle. In my 30s, I found it a massive struggle and wondered why I was failing all the time. Like the swan on the outside and like paddling under the water like crazy and thinking it was all me. So number one, I wish somebody had said to me, it's not you. There are bigger issues at play here. And that would have maybe relieved some of my guilt that it was me personally. And then I wish somebody had given me that benefit of the wisdom of saying, it doesn't have to be all at once. No. It can be in chapters and over the course of, hopefully, if we look after ourselves, a long life, please God,
You touched on previous careers, and I did want to delve into that a little bit further because I mentioned in the introduction, you had a pharmacy business, an online pharmacy business that sold some interesting meds.
We really did.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so career-wise, so my background is, my first degree was in pharmacy. And my husband was an accountant, and the first business that we had together was we had a recruitment company, and we had that for about 15 years. As part of the recruitment company, I got this call one day in the office from this guy who was saying he wanted to set up an online pharmacy, and he was the finance guy, and he had a marketing guy, and he was looking for somebody to do the pharmacy operations. So, well, to be fair, actually, at the this is how things work out, isn't it? At the very beginning, I was like, right, fine, it's a recruitment campaign. He paid me like finder's fees. I actually met 6 people with him and tried to palm him off on other businesses. At the end of this 3-month campaign, we worked together very closely on it. He said to me, do you know what, Giselle, actually, I might pick this last guy that you've introduced me to, but I'm wondering, we've worked together so well. Would you be interested in setting this up with me? So at the time I was like, well, we have a space in the back office. I was a pharmacist, right? So with the recruitment business is a pharmacy recruitment business. I haven't worked as a pharmacist for a number of years, but let's give it a go. I had a mate at the time who was on maternity leave with her 3rd baby, and she was a doctor, and she said, well, if you get any prescriptions through, if this thing works out, I'll sign your prescriptions for you. I'll do the training. So we set up this website, and it was medicines for embarrassing illnesses.
Lots or just specific? Yeah,
so different things. So stuff for STDs, so like thrush, cystitis, hair loss, weight loss, stuff you don't necessarily want to go and eyeball your pharmacist and say, please, may I? So we did quite the line in Viagra sales. And
how do you vet who's ordering them?
So we had a pharmacy where I ended up, and it grew really, really quickly.
Send me a picture. Upload an image.
Upload an image. Yeah, okay. And I'm just thinking of the euphemism of saying it grew really quickly. I'm thinking the business grew really quickly. Yeah, so
I was going to say,
yeah.
the business grew really quickly.
Yeah, the business grew really quickly. So we ended up with this pharmacy where people would fill in the online application. It would be vetted by the doctor. They would sign off the prescription. The prescription would come to the pharmacy. We would pick, pack, post, and the medicine would go out to the patient in very discreet white packaging. Patients could also phone us and do telephone consultations. It was a really tough industry. So when we started it, it was 2013, and it was really highly regulated. So the pharmacy inspector came round and he said to me, like, I'm just telling you now, I do not like this. I do not like online pharmacy. I think people should be seeing their healthcare professional face to face. I will license you because, I have to, but like not happy.
I agree with that.
So we were regulated not only by the General Pharmaceutical Council, we were regulated by the General Medical Council, by the Care Quality Commission, by the MHRA, so that's the European Medicines Authority. Like it was intense in terms of the paperwork and everything to get this thing off the ground. And as I say, it kind of flew. And what was helpful was the year we started, Viagra had gone from being a branded product and then it came off license. So what that meant was that you could sell the generic version, which is much a cheaper thing for customers to buy, but the same exact tablet. So yeah, it's just the brand versus the generic. And so, like it was flying off the shelves.
Wow.
So it was such an interesting business to run.
People. You've made many people's lives better.
We have improved the healthcare and the quality of life. And I'm sure the marriages.
You might have saved many marriages. I was
multiple
going to say
people.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're being called that it's nearly time.
Okay.
There was always
a quick story, though, that you we touched on at the start about something your business partner called you.
Oh, the donkey thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear.
Oh my goodness me. Okay, so the two guys I went to business with. It was the guy who I got on with really well at the beginning. He was not the details man, so as I say, I was the detail person. And when you say, ask a busy person, right? So as I say, that was my life, frenetic, whatever. I was running around. I'd recruited all the staff. As I say, we ended up with 25 staff really very quickly, and trained them and sorted, and as I say, legislation, And this guy, he was something else. And my husband was in the business as well, because this guy had originally said he was finance. And we needed somebody much more senior finance. So my husband came in and it was the four of us in the business together. Anyway, we were at this business meeting. So it was this guy, and it was a bank meeting. And he was kind of waxing lyrical about his philosophy in business and, kind of why he kind of was successful and whatever. And I remember he was telling everybody at this meeting that he was the ideas guy, and he just hired donkeys to do the work. And I remember sitting in that meeting and thinking, oh my God, I'm your donkey. I am your donkey. Like, it's all become clear now exactly how this works. Yeah.
You're nobody's donkey.
Wow.
Funny. So I was the donkey. So hence that probably influenced as well my interest in studying and interviewing other women in business and figuring out, some of their maybe trials, tribulations, how it all plays out. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
The donkey.
No, you're nobody's donkey.
Yes.
Right, I'm going to go on to the quick fire
Go
round.
for it.
Okay.
Which I know you've been dreading because you want to give us a heads
they're
up.
really tough.
So
Your
I'm going to
questions are
start.
tough.
Okay, I am going to go for like a
hard one. Yeah.
One thing you wish more women knew.
I wish women would let go of the guilt.
I love that.
I wish we would give ourselves a bit more space and grace and not hold on to it all so tightly. And I think that would give us space to, as I was kind of saying before about this idea of the cost of comparison, not put ourselves in these own little silos and give everybody the kind of ability to go, we're all just doing our best.
Yeah.
We're all just doing our best and support each other. Yeah. Cool.
Any ideas how they can find out more about that?
They might be able to read a whole book on it. I might have written a book. You can download it on Audible.
This is on Audible, isn't it? So you can literally drive and
can drive and listen to the sound of my Canadian accent.
Women really have it all. And also you're on, before, I know you've got another quick fire, but before we do, where can we find you on social media? Or where can everybody find you?
At Giselle Goodwin Writes on Instagram. I'm starting up on there. And my website, gisellegoodwin.com. You can sign up to my newsletter. Their free newsletter. I've got a little happiness quiz you can sign up to on the website as well. So either Instagram at Giselle Goodwin Writes, or as I say, my website, gisellegoodwin.com.
Fabulous. And you can do one last quick
Oh,
fire.
I'll do a super quick one then, since we're really being told to wrap up. Email or voice note?
Both. Just communication. Like, send it to me. I love it.
Jen
I
loves
love
my
I love hearing
27-minute voice notes.
Podcast, Claire, I'm like...
To be fair, emails are quicker to read, aren't they? In fairness, emails are quicker to read. You can scan it, can't you?
You can scan.
Yes, so maybe email if you push me on it, yeah.
I'm a voice note person.
But
You
I
like a
like
voice
hearing
note.
people's voices because you get more out of it. It's you get the intonation. Often, texts and things can be
But
misconstrued,
obviously there's a place for
can't they?
email, there's a place for voice note. Because I wouldn't be leaving, well, I do leave voice notes for my clients, but I guess in the industry I'm in, it's not. But if it's on a, more professional, you got to do the email. But, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's been so lovely.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Real
I could just
delight.
it's
thank
becoming
you.
a women podcast. I think, no, we've got lots of guys on as well. But thanks for coming on the show. So if you are listening to us we've got YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Gosh, I forgot everything then. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review. We are at the Portugal Diaries podcast on Instagram and our socials. So thanks for watching and listening, and remember to keep watching.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank